Once again, we're back on the air. Welcome to Breakfast Central on News Central on a Wednesday morning. It feels good to be here, and we want to say a big thank you to Tolulopa Dile Balogun yesterday for holding it down with the man of the moment.
Co-pilot and first officer disappeared yesterday, but Tolu held it down. You know, I had to pilot and navigate.
Who is the co-pilot?
Co-pilot, always his first officer. But first officer is somewhere around, just doing the work of the Lord.
Anyway.
It's good to have everyone back. I feel there's a bug in the hills. Something.
Yeah, there's a bug. If you're not catching cold, you're either running temperature. It's not just a few of, our colleagues who are facing this. Coincidentally, yesterday was a special day as well for me. My children were graduating yesterday.
Congratulations to you and your
moving
wife.
to secondary school and then moving to primary school.
Wow.
So it was indeed. But while I was also there, you could tell that some people were sniffing, coughing. I'm like, okay, all right. So
I think it's about time we bring back the face masks.
Yeah.
If you're going to be in public places.
It's starting
so you
to
don't
look like
catch
that.
something.
Yeah. And sometimes you see people wear it intermittently. Once in a while, they just put it on. It's starting to look like we need to even pay more attention to what's really happening. But then again, the good thing is we're alive.
Yes, and you're back. So it's good to have you guys back. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. As always, we're still taking reactions from the biggest news in the country. The passing of the former president, President Muhammadu Buhari, who was laid to rest, given a befitting state funeral in his hometown of Daura yesterday. We have quite a lot to discuss, dissect, and analyze today, as always, on Breakfast Central.
That's right. Anyway, if you're just tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget that you can go on all socials. We're streaming live on X, on YouTube, Facebook, you name it, and drop a comment or two. Let us know what you think about the stories. One big question everyone seems to be answering and also talking about is the fact that what would you remember the late President Muhammadu Buhari for? Quite frankly, and sad at the same time, the responses have not been all too positive. Nigerians as a whole have continued to recount some of the negatives, if you say it that way, of his administration and the impact, while others have also recounted the positives. In other words,
it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, like you'd say. But then again, what would Nigerians remember him for is very paramount, as it sets the tone for what the current administration should start thinking about. It's one thing for you to say we are in power, or it's one thing for you to say it's our turn to rule, Emi Lokon or Awa Lokon, which is it's our time. It's another thing for you to now say, while it's our time, we're able.
Lasting impact, positive impact and legacy.
Yes.
When you're done with your administration, so people can remember you for the good, because you cannot police how people react when you're gone, or the assessment of your administration. But what you still have the power to do is to change the narrative and leave your name in the sands of time.
That's right. That's right. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was on ground at the airport to welcome the former First Lady. Footage, videos were equally in circulation showing that, as the President also welcomed the arrival of the remains of the former President of Nigeria. Now, along the lines, comments have been made on how the former President, the late President Muhammadu Buhari, had also been instrumental to ensuring that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also got to power, although that would be highly contested and disregard any other form that will come from either the same political party or the political parties. But then again, in this video, you can see there, you can see the president giving his last words, possibly right before
respect.
Yes, the last respect right before the former president was indeed buried. This is the footage of the president during his arrival as well, sharing greetings, and a little one or two here to discuss would actually be the fact that everyone did show up dressed in black to also highlight the fact that it was a day of mourning and the dignitaries that equally arrived from different parts of the country also show that...
and also outside the country.
Outside
the president of Guinea was present, of Guinea-Bissau.
Guinea-Bissau, Prime Minister as well.
And the Prime Minister of Niger, our neighboring Niger Republic, was also there to pay their last respect to the fallen president. And we also recall he was a general in the army, so there was a bit of a ceremonial procession there before he was interred according to Islamic rites. So if you see that video there, that's a ceremonial sword and cap presented, and also the flag was presented to the family for safe keeping and for them to honor the memory of their late father, General Muhammadu Buhari.
Anyway, let's take a look at some footages that we do have just to remind us of what really went down yesterday. Let's take a look. You see, whether you like it or not, you know, the Holy Book says that the living are aware and are conscious that they would eventually die. But as for the dead, they are conscious of nothing at all. In other words, it means that when one goes to sleep, you just know that you cannot wake him because he's gone. And it's sad that when one goes to sleep, it's what he's done that he will be remembered for. The things that he's done, like you also mentioned, the footprints that is left in the sands of time, would equally be what people would...
Between that hyphen, you know, born on this day.
Exactly. I have a friend who always says that the most important part of every human's life is that hyphen. He always says that. And he would say, when someone dies and he's buried in the tomb, the most important thing is what he did between when he was alive and when he died. And we must also mention that it's a grieving and a sad moment for the family. As we can see, the former First Lady there and the current First Lady, it's a clear case of everyone coming together to ensure that they can console and also comfort the bereaved. And that's what we see there on the screen. It was a beehive of activities yesterday in Daura. Different persons, personalities, friends. I also did hear that the daughter of the late former president also penned an emotional note to her father, which she put on social media, talking a lot about her closeness with the dad and so on. The former president will be remembered for many things, Benga, a whole lot. And some of them are what we would also look forward to.
Looking at this morning, quite sobering scenes from Daura and Katsina yesterday. Like Joe said, beehive of activities. Quite a number of VIPs came in to pay their last respect at the burial ceremony of the late head of state, General Muhammadu Buhari, and I mean the most senior of senior government officials in Nigeria. I think about 23 ministers of the current ministers were also present, and the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was right there through the thick and thin of it all to pay his last respect to his predecessor, General Muhammadu Buhari. And if you do recall, this must be very emotional for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu because it was very instrumental in ensuring that the late president emerged with the, playing the role of a kingsmaker, the politicking, the merger of APC and CPC. They went through quite a lot together. But let's take a reaction from one of his most popular ministers. I believe he was minister for 8 years.
Yeah. Anyway, another person was also present, and that had to be a minister under the Buhari administration.
One of the most popular ones, I think.
Exactly, and one who is driving the new political drive, the new political party, the ADC. We're talking about former governor of River State, His Excellency Rotimi Amechi. He dressed in a very, interesting regalia. This is well known to the northern tribe. And he got bashed on social media. Many said it was as a result of a political whim. He was pushing the narrative too far. He was trying to associate himself to the north, but that's not true. The truth is that the former minister, former governor, and of course a politician actually has a stake, if you put it that way. He was also given an honor in the north. So he's not just putting it on.
He's a chief.
You can liken that to the chief as well. In the north. So that's another thing to clear the doubts. You know, the thing about this entire situation is the fact that whenever you see issues that happen, you always find Nigerians, those who have the story, those who do not have the story,
those who will invent stories,
those who
all sorts of things. That's why, and then sometimes, you're a PR man, you're wondering, should I react, should I not react? But what would you advise? It's better to just clear the air, come out and say, look, this is not the narrative you're pushing. Like I shared a story the other day of the late president saying they printed his wedding invitation card.
Yes.
And they said he was getting married on Friday. People went to the National Mosque. At least after going there on Friday and you didn't see anything, maybe you go back to your house and you then know that it's a falsehood. But we need to be more responsible with our usage of social media. Yeah.
That's true.
But let's take reactions.
Let's see reactions. Let's see reactions to what Nigerians are saying. Most importantly on X. Ibitu Promise says, #2027, the Southerners are trying everything possible to marry the North. Sheikh Rotimi Amechi. Okay, big guy, you might want to take the next tweets, please.
Okay, let's see the next. Is this dress up really necessary, or are you really trying to win the hearts of the Northerners? So you truly have plans for 2027. Engineer Festus Brave there. Nigerian politicians are content creators, says DN Passion. Let's see if we have more tweets. Even on the day of Buhari's burial, Amechi is playing politics. Okay, and Sire Somi says, for those saying it's politics, know that Rotimi Amechi is a titled man and Daura is the Dan Amana of Daura. So there you have it.
Yeah. I think this clarifies it as well for Nigerians who, this should also sound as, this should sound a note of warning to those who may not have any idea of what history entails or what may have happened at a certain time or period. It's okay for you to just, join people and speak, but it's also all right for you to take time to just go on Google and type,
or try and understand the context. And if you don't, look, you don't have to react to everything. If you have no idea about something, then you just keep quiet. Yes.
So it's really noteworthy that we also highlight that before we do things, we also need to ensure that we take our time to invest in reading and understanding what it's all about. But a lot of reactions.
Some have also said that, okay, fine, he's a titled man, but is he required to dress like that every time he visits Daura? I think he's just paying homage and tribute to the people that gave him the title. Remember, the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the Jagaban Borgu. And I'm sure that if he ever has to go to Borgu Kingdom, he will probably wear his attire and he would, show that he appreciates the kind gesture of them and the honor of them banning him and giving him that title.
That's right. But someone was missing, and a lot of Nigerians many Nigerians were expecting to have seen him there, especially coming from the background of recently showing that he's very humble and he's subservient as much as possible to the people, and very active as well. And adding to the fact that he's been to the north most recently, where he also donated contributed as well. He's been to Benin. He was also at the, would say he also visited a few other states. And then he also went to the southeast. And who else are we talking about? Well, we thought we'd get to see Mr. Peter Gregory Obi.
He's a very pan-Nigerian politician.
But he wasn't there.
He wasn't there. He has penned his tributes to the family. He sent his condolences. And he's not a government official. I don't think he's necessarily required to be there. He probably had other engagements.
Rotimi Amici is also not a...
No, Rotimi Amici served under his boss. Yes, under Buhari. And you don't... Let's cut Mr. Peter Obi some slack. He's not required to... He's not a government official. He's not required to be present there. You could also say the Waziri of Adamawa was not there. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Yes, so... what is good for the goose is good for the gander.
But I mean, Atiku Abubakar visited, tried as much as possible to visit him right before his demise, paid a visit to him and all that, and even when he died. Benga.
Okay, I see. Yeah. I mean, I think the condolences are enough. Yes.
Okay, all right, if you say so. But there are also reactions on many thought they would see His Excellency Mr. Peter Gregory Obi at the funeral, but he wasn't there as well. But that's not all. Today on the show, we'll also be taking a look at some very important aspects concerning the late former president.
Oh, yes. But before we move on, away from wake-up conversations, let's talk about this. Yesterday was a public holiday. I think it was befitting for the person of the late President, General Muhammadu Buhari. If you remember, he was a Civil War veteran. He fought to keep the unity of the country together. He was a military president. He was a general. He was also a two-time civilian democratic president. And the federal government, in their own wisdom, deemed it fit to declare yesterday, the day of his funeral, a public holiday to honor his memory and legacy. But this led to reactions, as always. You know, Joe, if you just wake up and put up a blank sheet, the people react to everything. And there's a political side to everything. I guess that's why they call us political animals. But Nigerians reacted yesterday and said, why another public holiday? Even the people that were enjoying the day off were still complaining for the sake of politics. I mean, come on. But let's hear it from, let's take reactions and hear from Nigerians what they thought about this public holiday. I thought public holidays were celebratory and a good thing, but...
Visaya speaks. Visaya Shirombo says, declaring Tuesday public holiday over Buhari's passing betrays our aversion to work as a people. Our work culture, especially in the civil service, is atrocious. A period of national mourning, yes. Flags flying at half-mast, yes. But an abandonment of work, this government is clearly run by quiet quitters. And then he gets... someone asked, Grog, is it common practice to declare National Mourning Day plus public holiday when a past president dies? If you state 5 examples from other countries apart from Nigeria. And I don't know if we followed up with that. But then again, let's see more responses. How can a public holiday be declared at the 9th hour like this? Many people have had appointments planned, and for some, sticking to their schedule is crucial. Missing that day could have serious consequences for them. Court judgments, embassy appointments, and other important plans have all been disrupted by the most incompetent government in history. That's what O Square feels, and that's exactly what he says. Well, who else is speaking? Okay, Chidiodin Kalu, CGOF, of course, a very popular economist and one who is a tough talker. He says Abubakar Tafawa Balewa died in office, no public holiday. Aguiyi Ironsi died in office, no public holiday. Murtala Mohammed died in office, no public holiday. Sani Abacha died in office, no public holiday. Hashtag
Umaru Yaradua.
Musa Yaradua died in office, no public holiday. I think that answers the question for Grog, the other guy that was answering, especially for Nigeria.
He wanted to know
outside the country. But someone has given him the local context.
And I need to fact check some of these things.
Anyway. Good morning, Prof. Try to double-check before pushing out fact-based tweets. A national public holiday was declared on the 6th of May 2010 to mourn the death of our then President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua when he passed on. So that's clarity.
And then when General Murtala Mohammed passed on, it was I mean, there's palpable tension in the country. It's not like he died of natural causes. It was a violent overthrow of the government, and he was assassinated. So you expect, I don't think people went about their normal business the next day. So you can't really use that as a yardstick to say, oh, there was no public holiday. Nah.
So in other words, let's just look at it this way.
So you have to put it in context.
Let's just look at it this way. Let's take this tweet before we ask the question. May Almighty Allah forgive Buhari. May Allah give him the highest rank of Jannah. Because of this public holiday, a lot of civil servants are forgiven. Say Baba. May God see him through. Amen. Your hometown Daura and the north will miss you. So this is where I also have a problem. When people just sum up everything and say, take note of what he said, though. Because of the public holiday, Nigerians are forgiving.
You know, it's the diversity of thoughts of human beings that is just fascinating. You don't expect every, and if we all thought alike, it would be a very boring life. We'll be robots. So let's entertain some of these people sometimes.
I agree with you. We need a sprinkle,
exactly.
A sprinkle of comments like these to make you look at life and say, wow.
Did he do like a survey?
Exactly.
And ask all the civil servants, okay, now that today has been declared as a public holiday, do you forgive the former president for his sins and transgressions?
Just like because of public holiday.
Yes.
Anyway, the question we're going to ask is, if you...
He's one of the people that Fisayo was talking about.
Exactly. But this public holiday, which was yesterday, I think it came rather late.
The timing was declaration. Off. Quite a lot of number of people didn't know.
Yes. Schools were opened yesterday. Some parents were with their children at school. They took their kids to school yesterday. Some companies, whether you like it or not, still opened yesterday because they felt like, oh no. And then there was a conversation whether the public holiday was only meant for Katsina State. It was only meant for people in Daura.
But the Interior Minister announced it, so it's nationwide. Yeah. And then we might get to a point, because it's becoming rampant, we're getting too many holidays, that private companies will decide that, look, if the government declares a public holiday, it's for government workers, where private sector would continue business as usual.
Well said, Binga. Well said. This conversation was equally had yesterday. I did meet a few persons who said they went to work. You know, that it's government. It's not. While some others, of course, some private sector workers would be seeking for any opportunity to just relax.
Of course, because they're national honor and public holiday.
Maybe we should have our own special holiday. Yeah, but imagine when the police and everybody leaves strikes.
Like Mr. Shore, we had a conversation with him the other day, and he was proposing a strike.
That police should strike. That's dangerous. And I like the question you asked there, Shore, that if the police strike, what will happen to security? Wouldn't the armed robbers who are watching the show then, like you put it, they're like, boys, wait, did you hear? Police want to go on strike. Opportunity. Let's do what we have to do. And everybody will start rushing into the supermarkets and then robbing people. What would you say? So,
but the good thing is, I mean, for those in Lagos State, we have there's backup.
What's the backup?
There's OPC. There's also Neighborhood Watch.
Kick against it.
Then there's Kai. There's some LASMA can also use that car to block the armed robbers. Something like that.
LASMA was not built for that thing. I'm sure when they hear
but they wear uniform now.
It does not identify.
Don't you hear the phrase uniform personnel? A uniform man, don't you have respect
and
for
I think that word has been abused. That word, uniform personnel, has been abused in all form and context. Because even Kai will tell you, I'm a uniform personnel. Yes. While we agree that it is an English word to identify you as belonging to a unit or belonging to a particular body,
there's a certain, they kind of feel special.
There's this thing it does to your shoulder.
Yeah. Even man of war, they feel their
their shoulder, there's this thing it does to them. So they say,
this uniform puts me in a higher pedestal.
And then it leads to that question, do you know who I am? Which is a problem.
This thing should be studied by psychologists, by sociologists in university.
We agree.
So if you're watching and you're a final year student, you're thinking of a project topic, the glorification of uniform personnel, and do you know who I am
in Nigeria? Case study. Focus in Nigeria. We always find a way to segue off some of the very hard-hitting thoughts and conversations to make it a bit easy for you whenever we start wake-up conversation. And that's exactly what we've done. But we'll be looking into the life and times for the another day, especially on the former President Muhammadu Buhari. And you may ask, why are we doing that? I mean, they've done it twice. I heard someone on radio screaming that enough is enough. We've been talking about it. I'm like, no, you don't do that.
I mean, the impact of his governance, we're still feeling the effects of it. So it's only right. It's the biggest news.
Absolutely. But let's bring to you our top stories today and get to see what we have for you here on Breakfast Central. Today on Breakfast Central, let's tell you that we'll be looking at tributes as it continues to pour in for late President Muhammadu Buhari. Reactions show President Buhari's demise. You did hear a bit of it here, but we'll be going deeper into it in conversation. And then PDP rejects local government election results. It's a very tough one, especially from last Saturday, what took place. And not forgetting to, we'll look at the man and, of course, his legacy left behind. Newspaper front pages will equally be here for you to join in, so feel free to call in when it's time. Stay with us. Breakfast Central kicks off in a moment.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, as the nation mourns the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari, it's also an opportunity to reflect critically, compassionately and candidly on his legacy. President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on Sunday and was buried yesterday in a state funeral at his hometown of Daura in Katsina State. His legacy, however, remains deeply woven into the fabric of Nigeria's recent journey.
The late president was a defining figure in Nigeria's political history. His administration led Nigeria to several changes, positive and negative. But as we assess his legacy, the question remains, how much impact did he make and how much of it will outlive him? Join us this morning for this important discussion as the national chairman of the ADP party and former chairman Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Alhaji Yabagi Sani. A warm welcome to you, Alhaji Sani, and thanks for joining us for Breakfast Central this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians and your listeners.
Now, my first question would be your reactions to the news of the death of the late President Muhammadu Buhari and his funeral. How would you remember him and what's his legacy for you?
Well, we pray that Allah will grant him a Jannah Firdausi because he was a leader that I believe his kind will be difficult to find when you look at the history of this country. Of course, well, tomorrow is bigger than today, so we can't say that we may not find somebody that perhaps will hold a candle to him. But if you look at Muhammadu Buhari, I think he personifies everything about Nigeria and then everything about leadership. Leadership is a big, endeavor in the sense that nobody can really meet the challenges, all the challenges of leadership, adequately to satisfaction of the led. So I believe the history will be kind to him in a very special way, especially when you look at one thing that is very important. The fundamental thing about history is how truthful are you, with the people? How honest, are you? The issue of integrity, the issue of trust. And then in Nigeria, and I'm sure everywhere, it's not how much education you have in terms of paper qualification or how smart you are, but how reliable are you? How credible are you? How much can people trust you when you say something? Are you really going to stand by what you said? I think that is the mark of a good leader. And I think Muhammadu Buhari fulfilled all those requirements. So that's why I said the history will be kind to him, and then will become a reference point that how honest is this person? Is he going to be honest with us? Is this somebody that we can really trust? So Muhammadu Buhari was a trustworthy leader, And of course, like I said, he had his challenges. And those challenges are not something that is unusual when you are leading a country of over 250 million people, different backgrounds, different cultures, different traditions, different beliefs. And then you have to now contend with how you balance the expectations of the people. And then, expectations in most cases with the human beings is rooted in their beliefs. And then in Nigeria, we know that it can be described as a collection of nations. Where I'm talking about these primordial sentiments that have eaten deep into the fabrics of our society. With the politics you want to look at, economy you want to look at, social aspect of it you want to look at, these primordial sentiments have become very, very deep in the ways we do things. That's why I always like to refer to the saying of one professor of history, that is Ilemona Onoja. He said that we have, we Africans, not only Nigerians, we have what he called triple heritage. And this triple heritage is the issue of your customs, as a person, the issue of the Western influence of Western civilization. And then you also have the issue of the influence of your religion also. In some cases you are Christian, some are Muslims, some are atheists. So you always have these three heritage, the contending forces, if you like, and call it the three concentric cycles that a Nigerian or a leader has to deal with. So, and Muhammadu Buhari personifies all these things. When it comes to Muhammadu Buhari's leadership as far as his faith is concerned, I'm talking about his religion, his moral, upright, his spiritual, upright. They are firm. He's very, very, firm when it comes to those three things. And those three things define, an individual. And that's what tells people the kind of person you are and how much you can be trusted. And I think this is why some of us misread him. They think that he's somebody who is not approachable. But believe me, my personal experience with Muhammadu Buhari, is something that you won't believe it. I found him to be a highly, highly accommodating individual, very humble, believe me. He is always ready to listen to you, provided what you are saying, to a very large extent is not in any way trying to deceive him or, be economical with words or things like that. So he was a leader that I believe will become a reference point when you are looking for a leader that can be trusted. And like I said, trust is something that is very, very fundamental, very important in leadership. The moment people cannot trust you anymore, you've lost it. No matter how educated you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter what you think you are doing, which may be different from better than what others are doing. So this is why I want to give it to him as one leader in the history of this country that will stand out, will become a reference point.
You've spoken about the strength of his character in terms of religion, morality, and the likes. And these are some of the things, in fact, in terms of also his discipline, were some of the expectations Nigerians had when he was coming into office. One of the things, or one of the areas he has spoken so strongly about trying to effect a change would be in the area of corruption, dealing with corruption. However, there are those who argue that the fight against corruption in his time was rather symbolic and not necessarily in-depth. So let's get your thoughts. How well do you think the President Buhari administration fared in the fight against corruption?
Well, I think people mistook Muhammadu Buhari of the military era, with the Muhammadu Buhari of the civilian era, democratic era. Under military administration, it's a mechanistic system, like it's obey the last command, and then, but under the civilian administration, he has to contend with all the other forces that equally had the force of the Constitution, behind them. You look at the National Assembly, you look at the judiciary, you look at now even the executive itself. And then you also, under civilian administration, you have to now deal with the issue of effectiveness in your delivery of the mandate that is given to you, meaning that you have to satisfy almost the impossibles, when you come to do things. Meaning that in your appointments, and like you said, as a leader under a civilian administration, you are not expected to be good in everything. And you are supposed to be good in leadership, leading. You cannot be a good doctor, in terms of health aspect or agriculture aspect or other aspect of life. But as a leader, they want you to be very, very strong, firm, trustworthy, so that you can be able to identify those that you will delegate your responsibilities to, your mandate to. Because but in our particular case, like you talk about corruption, and that's why I'm trying to tell you that as a president, all you can do is to show example by way of how you do things. It's not what you say, but it's what you do. And I think that's what Muhammadu Buhari was trying to do. And what worked against him is the system itself. He had to appoint people. You look at EFCC that was put, EICC also was put, in order to fight, corruption, so that we will degrade corruption to a very minimal acceptable level. But what happened in EFCC? Even under Buhari or before Buhari, you find that those appointed were also found to be, found wanting, in the area of the fight. What they wanted, the assignment given to them, they themselves were found wanting. And most of them were removed under, very, very controversial, embarrassing situations. So as a president, you have to delegate. And this is a civilian administration where, you cannot take action immediately. Even if you wanted to, you have to follow the due process, unfortunately. So, and this is, I think, the drawback. This is what worked against President Muhammadu Buhari, because up to today, and I'm sure until the end of time, nobody can come out and say, Buhari took this from me, or he discussed this matter that was about his own interest alone, not about the state. So that is why corruption is about how we Nigerians and how we want to really deal with the corruption, because the system is not. Look at what is happening even under Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself. The people are pointing fingers to some people, under him in his administration. Even build up to when people were appointed as ministers. We gathered that some people had to pay, money before they were appointed as ministers, and even today there are issues with some areas in the administration which borders on corruption. But it is the people themselves, we, that will have to come up and be firm on the fight against corruption, because the system, the legal system, is such a frustrating, procedure, for you to be able to get justice. Even as a president, you like I said, and I'm repeating myself, you cannot just do whatever you like. No, that is a democracy for you. So this is why the fight against corruption under Muhammadu Buhari and under any other president that you want to talk about will be something that we Nigerians ourselves will have to believe that we need to fight this corruption we're talking about, because it is the canker worm. It's what has worked against us. It works against every country, and then some of them are institutionalized. And we see, look at NNPC, for instance. Look at how long it took Bola Ahmed Tinubu to change the management in NNPC, even though we knew, and he knew too, that every problems we are talking about, like these subsidy issues we are talking about, can be traced to the mismanagement in NNPC. We talk about the foreign exchange, it comes from the NNPC, which is the subsidy on it. So if you talk about the fuel itself that we are giving subsidy, petroleum subsidy, it was mismanaged by NNPC, but it took him almost forever, before he could do anything to the management in that sector of the economy. So I'm telling you, that's why I'm saying it's not Muhammadu Buhari that could not fight, corruption, but even leaders before him. And I'm telling you, leaders even after him, until Nigerians, until we start really believing that it's us as people, we start really dealing with people that are corrupt, in the manner that it should be. Because look at other climes, that are described as developed or developed.
All right.
The rule of law is obeyed, and it's not just the government; it's also the people themselves.
Okay. I mean, you've spoken well about some of the things, especially that of corruption, even though majority of Nigerians will not agree with the fact that the former and late president had come out to talk tough, where he did make a statement that if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill Nigeria. And Nigerians were hoping, the more reason why they put their thumb, especially during the election, was that they thought he was the messiah to end corruption in the country, but it seems like that never came to pass. The president, former president, I beg your pardon, the late former president, was also very used to not addressing Nigerians in public. He was not there to speak to Nigerians, and many attributed this to his ill health, hence why he had to travel out of the country many times during his administration. Aside that, he did make a very powerful statement where he said, he's for, I can't remember that statement.
Everybody
now.
and for nobody.
I am for everybody and I am for nobody as well. And that also got a lot of persons talking. Would you say that the late president's style of ruling, as it were, helped democracy grow in Nigeria in any way? Or do you think it kind of like kept us in a space where we needed to do more?
I think we need to do more because you can take somebody like Muhammadu Buhari out of the military, but you can't take the military out of him. Somebody spent the entire life, his entire, salad days, the most useful part of his life in a particular environment. And today, you want to bring him from that environment and put him in a completely different environment, and you want the same kind of performance, the same kind of results that you get from it. It can never happen because it's a human being. So this is the point I'm trying to make, that you have to be factual. I mean, you have to be sincere with ourselves. How you measure the performance of Muhammadu Buhari in a democratic setting, the people were expecting too much, believe me, and this is what happened. And he himself, he wanted to give more than he could give because he came with the passion, with the commitment, with the dedication, and then to really deliver, especially the area of corruption, like you said, and the area of democratic governance, But he performed really, if you look at it, Buhari never pursued as a person one party, one party state, in Nigeria. No, it wasn't. He didn't. He was, in fact, accused by his party that he's favoring the opposition too much, So, but here we are today. We have a Democrat in the saddle. That is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and what are the democratic gains have we gotten in terms of his approach to how he deals with the opposition? See what is happening. So these are things that we are talking about, that we must be very pragmatic when we are looking at people. You can't take them out of their roots, that is what they make up the man. But he tried, I think, because under him, the opposition fared better than what is happening today, if you are talking about democracy. So I think, to a very large extent, like I started telling you, that there are challenges that he couldn't surmount at all. And of course, he wasn't happy himself, but he was happy that he left at the time he left, because he performed as was required, up to the end of the tenure, which is the 8 years that was given under senior administration. And he retired to his home in Daura, and when God was ready to take him back, he took him, and I think the party was well met, So the fact of the leadership and time of Muhammadu Buhari, like I said, it's a study, for the students of history, and it's something that Nigeria can take something out of by ensuring that you have leaders that you can trust.
Thank you, Alhaji Sani. Others will argue that, he wasn't the only one in such a position, that you had former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was equally a former general in the army, and he also had a two-term run as civilian president. And when you compare the legacies, it's different. But like you said, there are different personalities. Late President Buhari has come and gone, and we have his legacy to define his presidency. Now, let's take a look at his 8 years as president. For you, what would be the highlight of his administration, be it infrastructure projects or policies that will stand the test of time, that you would look and say, look, it was President Muhammadu Buhari that did this, and everyone would always remember him for this? What were the highlights of his administration for you, Alhaji Sani?
Well, I think the highlight of his administration, if you look at the economic aspect, is the fact that under him, you were able to pass the PIA bill. I mentioned PIA because it's had to do with the most fundamental sector of our economy, which is the oil and gas sector. Anything that happens in that sector has ripple effects in other sectors because of the backward and forward linkages between other sectors and the petroleum industry. That's why I'm mentioning that bill in particular, even though it wasn't what should be, but at least you have a law. You have something that you can now use to operate that industry in accordance with the, if you like, the international best practices. But because it's being operated by Nigerians, the issue of corruption, again, is habilitating against the implementation of that bill itself. Number two, I think the passing also of the Electoral Act, Amendments Bill 2022, I think that also is a plus for him, because that also is very fundamental. If we couldn't get our election processes, right, then we cannot dream of having leaders that will represent us well. And I think he did his best. But again, here we are with the issue of corruption, which is also interfering. And I'm glad that National Assembly is taking a second look at most of the clauses, especially in that act, because after a test run, I call it a test run, of 2023 elections, it shows that there is a lot more that can be done, to make that law perfect and to address the challenges. So if you look at it, other things were there that he did. Infrastructure development, I think he constructed about how many roads, I understand, he also built these metro lines, the railways, the one between Kaduna and Abuja, the Takbi one, the one between Lagos and Ibadan, and things like that. I think those are major, because infrastructure development is very key to development of every economy. And so in that respect, you have to give it to him. And I like that. Why I mentioned the two laws is that those were, if properly handled, will define this country. Because if we can effectively manage the resources God has given to us, and like I said, you cannot but look at the oil and gas sector. What are we there? And look at also the agriculture sector. I think he did quite wonderfully well there by these anchor borrowers and things like that. But those beautiful initiatives, you can see how corruption ate into, the fabrics of those, those programs, and then almost made nonsense of because of corruption. So Muhammadu Buhari was on top of his game, really, when it comes to delivering, as far as leadership the initiative is concerned, and when it comes to major programs that you can say that they are a kind of having a great leap forward, for this country in terms of social, economic, and political aspect of it. So these two bills, for me, they are historical, they are fundamental. What remains now is how we improve on them, because that is what the National Assembly is all about.
All right, thank you very much for highlighting this, progress and what you would highlight as key factors or key areas where we can celebrate the 8 years of President Buhari, ex-late President Buhari in office. But if we look at his time in office, there was a certain issue that is a major bit of conversation. I'm sure, Alhaji, that you've seen a number of the reactions on social media to the announcement of the president's passing, the late president's passing. And a number of those reactions are from young people who feel like their voices were stifled during his second term. Remember the EndSARS protest of 2020 and how that was handled. It was a defining moment of former President Buhari's second term, and it was driven by youthful frustration and calls for reforms. So how would you say that this was handled? The actions by his administration, would you say that it further strengthened the democracy that our nation is pushing for? And what lessons do you think we can take from that?
Well, the lessons we can take from that is to look at ourselves as a nation. Look at Nigeria. I always make reference to these primordial sentiments. When you talk about EndSARS demonstration, and then, I don't know, put it side by side with also the hunger strike demonstration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And look, where do you have the intensity, the fury of those demonstrations more highlighted or more endemic or more serious? EndSARS was more serious in the southern part of the country. The hunger strike was more serious in the northern part of the country. It isn't that it didn't affect those two things we're talking about, it didn't affect us across the board, but because of the because of this primordial sentiments, that's what Buhari himself said. He said this is wanted to push it out, and it was the fury of that, demonstration was more in the southern part of the country, and the fury in the hunger strike was more in the northern part of the country under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we have to be very, very cautious when you discuss some of these things that happen to us as a nation. And this is why we needed to take a look at our laws. How do we unify this country? How do we make us look at Nigeria as Nigeria? Not look at Nigeria from such a narrow prism of your tribe or your side or your region or your religion. That's what happened. That's what came out. So it wasn't, the narration was not on Buhari as a person. You could have anybody there. If he's from the north, the southern part will be so furious about anything you talk about. And if the man is from the south, the northern part, anything that went wrong will be so furious. That's what we are witnessing. So you must address that fundamental. Otherwise you lose the point.
Alhaji, I think that, Alhaji, I will need you to clarify so that I don't misunderstand you. Does it matter regardless of, what side of the nation is agitating about it? Because what I'm hearing, and I fear that what might be interpreted from what you say, might be some who would say that the effect of the EndSARS protest in 2020 is being downplayed. Is that what is happening? Please correct me so that I don't misunderstand what exactly it is you're trying to say.
Tell me when young people were kept in prison from the north, most of them were from the north, and during the hunger strike. Why was underage people so maltreated in the manner they maltreated and killed some of them? The killings was more in the north. So I'm talking about Nigeria. We have to look at it from a very, very pragmatic point of view. Otherwise you lose the point. It's not the EndSARS thing. Yes, nobody's saying that the police were not setting the statement beyond their bounds. Yes, we know that. Nobody supported what the police were doing to the young people, especially. But nobody also will support what you did to the young people from the north and under the hunger strike. So we must come together. We must look at Nigeria as Nigeria and then be able to solve these problems.
Yes.
Because what has eaten too deep into our fabric of society is these primordial sentiments. And that's why you find so many things, being looked, at problems that we are having. But we will get over them with time.
So, again, what I'm saying at the end of the day is that no young person in any part of the country deserves to have experienced the harshness that these strikes and protests have brought upon them. The NSAS protest gained notoriety. We do not believe that the NSAS protest was restricted to a certain part of the country, or it wasn't a protest for the southern youth of Nigeria. It was a protest by the young people of Nigeria who wanted a different way of life and garnered international recognition. So what I'm hearing now is, I get the sense that we're now making it about regions. No Nigerian is more important than another Nigerian. No Nigerian young person is more important than another, Nigerian young person in the south or in the north. And all of them, regardless, deserve to be heard and deserve to be prioritized, which is why I ask that, can we completely say that, we can gloss over what happened in 2020 and move on like it didn't happen?
But the point I'm making is this: the destruction under the NSAS was more in the south, where buses were burnt, buildings were burnt and things like that. The destructions under hunger strike was more in the north, where a complete system that was built billions of dollars or things like that was burnt. People were killed. So you have to be factual. You have to be realistic, so that we don't miss, the essence of nationhood. That we must build this nation. We must bring people together.
Alhaji Sani, sorry to butt in. I think maybe you're not getting the question. We're not saying that there were no impacts. We agree. What my colleague is saying here is that the impact was felt in all over the nation, everywhere. Whether it's the north, that's what we're saying. We're not trying to marginalize or conscript to a certain jurisdiction. It was everywhere. What we're saying is, looking at the life and times of the former late president, do you think that he did enough, especially during the NSAS 2020? And what could have been done differently? We agree with that. The impact was felt everywhere. But we're saying, looking at the life and times, what do you think could have been done differently by the former president?
Because it was sectionalized. The fight. NSAS was sectionalized. Hunger strike was also sectionalized. I'm not making a holding forth for anybody or defending the north or defending the south. We have seen the two strikes that affected the young people, in terms of hunger, in terms of unemployment, in terms of the extrajudicial, killings that were taking place. But then look at what happened and how it happened. Look at the intensity. Look at the fury of those strikes. Where was it more? And then you can be traced to the fact that the president at that point in time was from the north. So you had the fury more from the south. Under hunger strike, you had the president from the south, and you had the fury of hunger strike more in the north. To the extent people are carrying flags of another country, So how much more divided could you be than that? So those strikes, those are the things they threw up. And if we miss them, we are just deceiving ourselves. We must take it and then do a deep study of who we are and see how do we further cement this country, bring ourselves together, unite ourselves together. So don't accuse any of the presidents, Bola Tinubu on what happened in the North hunger strike, or don't accuse the late Muhammadu Buhari, blessed memory, what happened during the NSAS, that because he didn't take actions. Both of them it's not individual affair. It's us as the people. That's the point I wanted to make. I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Right. Thank you so much for your time with us. Thanks for talking to us, and we truly appreciate the time you spent with us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's now share with you what's coming up next. We're still going to be reviewing the life and times of President Muhammadu Buhari, late ex-President Muhammadu Buhari, and of course looking at, what his legacy, the legacy he's left behind. But now let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. Coming up next on Breakfast Central, fresh Plateau killings. It's unfortunate that the Plateau has to keep experiencing this again. PDP rejects local government election results. And we, of course, will continue the conversation about ex-President Muhammadu Buhari.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central on News Central Television. We'll continue to reflect on the legacy of Nigeria's late President Muhammadu Buhari, from insurgency and infrastructure to policy decisions that reshape the economy and governance culture. His time in office packed debate, division, and demands for accountability.
The late ex-president, who was laid to rest in Daura, Katsina yesterday, left several marks on Nigeria's political and economic landscape during his 8 years in office. His administration was characterized by reforms across various sectors, including infrastructure, the economy, job creation, healthcare, transportation, anti-corruption, and oil and gas. Joining us this morning to further discuss the life and the legacy of the late ex-president Muhammadu Buhari is public affairs analyst and legal practitioner, Mr. Ilemona Onoja. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Bing. Olive. Hi, Bing. Hi, Joe.
Morning. Good to have you.
So let's get right into it. Our last conversation with Alhaji Yabagi Sani had, we ended the conversation on the note of the NSAS protest and looking at the 8 years of late ex-president Muhammadu Buhari and, talking about how the NSAS protest, what mark it left on his legacy and, what we could have done, what he could have done differently. And he was of the opinion that late ex-president Muhammadu Buhari should not be blamed for what happened with the NSAS, and that at the end of the day, there was the NSAS protest, which primarily affected the South, and the hunger protest, which primarily affected the North. And it's not about these presidents, it's about we Nigerians. So I'd like you to delve into that and, share your thoughts. Do you agree with the sentiment he's shared? What are your thoughts about the impact of the NSAS protest on his administration and his legacy?
I'd like to ask, if we do not hold the president responsible, the president in office at the time responsible, who do we hold responsible? I don't understand the thought. He was elected for the purposes of serving as president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He was responsible for the security forces that were deployed, not just at this NSAS protest, but at protests across the country generally, right? He was responsible for economic decisions. He was responsible for security decisions. He was responsible for foreign policy decisions. It wasn't me. You didn't contest to be president. I wasn't voted for. You weren't maintained on taxpayers' income for 8 years of your life. I wasn't. He was. He was given a sacred duty, a sacred responsibility to superintend the affairs of our country for 8 years. And that was his legacy, that the legacy of failure, the legacy of blood flow, the legacy of suppression, the legacy of NSAS and everything, it was his responsibility. It was his legacy. The military cannot be deployed without the authorization and the knowledge of the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The military was deployed that night on 2010-2020 to the scene of the protests where many people were killed. So to come back and say it's not his responsibility, we shouldn't hold him accountable. Who should we hold accountable? Me? Of course not. It doesn't make sense. And nothing explains Muhammadu Buhari's legacy and inability to understand Nigeria's problems, therefore inability to resolve them, than the NSAS protests. It's a very good microcosm of his lack of understanding, and I'll explain it very quickly. He quickly characterized the NSAS protests as an attempt to remove him from office. He thought it was an attempt to change government by extra constitutional means, if you will, which was the reason why he responded with violence, which was the reason why his government responded with violence. It's the same way he misunderstood Nigeria's economic problems. It's the same way he misunderstood Nigeria's security problems. He simply did not show a smart enough knowledge, a smart enough understanding of our problems, and therefore, consequently, could not solve them. I know we speak and we have all sorts of cultural issues that say we shouldn't speak evil of the dead. And this is not me speaking evil of the dead. This is me assessing the failure of a past president. I mean, he was a failure in office.
Well, many would also disagree with you on the other hand, but we do understand your points. I want to ask, how would you assess the administration's record, especially on transparency, when it comes to procurement, when it comes to public spending, and when it comes to the almighty corruption? How would you say he fared?
I would say that he fared badly. We have so many examples of corruption in his administration that went unresolved, that are unresolved still. I can give you a couple of examples. There was a very terrible scandal around the school feeding program. Yeah, the entire policy and government spending around special intervention programs and special interventions, all those trader money, market money, there's corruption around it. Yeah, I'll give you another example. The entire, for his 8 years in office, his policy around Forex minted billionaires overnight who corruptly had access to funds, received those funds at a discounted rate, and then round-tripped and sold in the FX market, or in the black market, if you will, for billions of dollars. Procurement, I mean, we can speak about Nigerian Air and all the money that was spent to put it on stream and the way it failed spectacularly. And I can go on and on. And you didn't see any. He did attempt to prosecute enemies, or perceived enemies, but people in his government were looting this country dry, bleeding the national purse on a daily basis. Didn't do anything about it. So when I have very critical, and my criticism is backed in fact. Any of the things I just said can be verified. It's not Ilemona Onoja's opinion. This is the opinion of the Nigerian. It is established by fact. There were so many schemes, so many scams, so many failures, all of which he unlooked, all of which he failed to address. Nigerian Air, for instance, is one of them.
Now, Mr. Onoja, Buhari's administration, we saw 2 recessions, inflation peaking at historic levels, and mounting debt. Given your assessment of the administration so far, would you say it's a fair reflection of the times? Let's also remember that it was under his administration that we had the COVID-19 pandemic, where the entire world was shut for a period of time, and we also had the Russia-Ukraine war. So how much of slack would you give him, knowing that those things were beyond his control, and could he have done better, even given those circumstances of the Russia-Ukraine war and also the COVID-19 pandemic?
President Muhammadu Buhari holds the unenviable record of being the only man in this. Well, I think he led this country into a recession 3 times. In 1984-85, he led the country into a recession. Then led us into a recession again in the year 2016. His was a government that was characterized, like I've said repeatedly, over his 10-year period of being president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces, our economy suffered brutally, simply because he tried to implement statist ideas that were proven over time to have been a failure. I will not give him any slack, because I don't think Nigeria has given more to one man than it gave to President Muhammadu Buhari. I don't think so. Maybe former President Olusegun Obasanjo, but from his time as a second lieutenant to his departure from the military to his presidency and leaving office, Muhammadu Buhari existed and was maintained by the Nigerian people. So much was given to him, and so little was given in return. If we speak about the COVID pandemic, yes, it did take the world by surprise. And yes, a lot of the world was shut down, but there were also, we faced those sorts of challenges before. In 2008, I think it was, we faced the global economic crisis that precipitated a global recession. Nigeria didn't face a recession because you had people who had put in place a series of policies that helped strengthen the country against the shockwaves of that global recession. Muhammadu Buhari's administration failed, refused, or neglected to do so. It's nobody's fault but his that we look at his government as a failure. I would say it was down to his failure it was down to his inability, it was down to his lack of understanding relating to the designing of economic principles and policies to secure Nigeria, if you will. That's the reason why we had things like that. So COVID-19 is not an excuse. Also, the world before he left office, the world had begun to experience a jump in economies that had prepared for that a post-COVID era. He didn't do anything to prepare Nigeria for a post-COVID era. So I'm hard-pressed to cut him any slack. Now, you might look at a few things and say, oh, he got this right or he got that right. But a broken clock is right twice a day. It doesn't change the overall fact that the clock is broken. And President Muhammadu Buhari, as president, was a broken clock.
Okay, let's talk about the things that, we would maybe agree that he got right. Supporters of his administration have said that there are a number of things he has done right, one of which is the Treasury single accounts, which they said helped curb fiscal irresponsibility and leakages. How would you rate that, in terms of how his administration was able to close the gaps to prevent further stealing or leakage of, Nigeria's finances?
I would like to first of all correct that lie that has been repeated for so long. Because there's this thing that Nigerian government officials have, where they believe that if you repeat a lie often enough, it will become true. The TSA, the Treasury Single Account, was a policy designed and partially implemented by the Goodluck Jonathan administration. It was former Minister of it was Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, former Minister of Finance, who supervised the design and then partial phased implementation of the TSA. He came into office and then, completed the phased implementation, and then his people have claimed that as a victory and tried to repeat it often enough, so it wasn't his. That said, even with that in place, we still saw the leakages, we still saw massive corruption in this government, we still saw assessments that assessed this government as being corrupt, how corrupt the police was, how corrupt customs was, how corrupt the judiciary became, and so on and so forth. It did nothing, while it did, it did warehouse government funding. If a person gave an approval, or it did warehouse government finances, if a person gave an approval, the government accounts were going to pay. And they gave those sorts of approval that ensured that people who had gamed the system got the payments for their gaming of the system. TSA was not going to do anything to stop the payments out for Nigerian Air, was it? Absolutely not. The people who got concessions and got dollar from CBN at concessionary rates that they then sold in the black market, TSA wasn't going to stop them from doing that now. Absolutely not. We have all those sorts of things. I mean, leakages existed in his budget. And as long as they had been in the budget, they had been approved by the National Assembly, they were paid. All sorts of bogus processes, all sorts of bogus projects were in the budget, and they were paid for. In fact, at points, one of the reasons why he really loathed the stewardship of the National Assembly under my mentor, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, for instance, was questions when the National Assembly would say, okay, these loans you were taking, what were they for? Can you identify the projects that these loans were for? And his administration refused. There was massive corruption in President Buhari's administration. And I'm giving examples that people can refer to, that people can verify. There was massive all these things that people say, oh, he lived a life of Spartan integrity. Please.
I mean, yes, you've spoken about it having been begun with President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and of course, I think it was implemented in about 42 agencies. But it was President Buhari that mandated all the agencies, to adopt this, right? So, I mean, he could have decided to veer off from it. He could have decided to reverse it. So, I think that at least we should be able to accredit that win to him to say he continued it, because we've seen subsequent governments come and reverse what the previous administration has done, which is why a number of them use that in campaigns to say we're going to continue what the previous administration did. Sorry, please go ahead.
What the previous administration was doing was testing it. The reason why they extended it to 42 parastatals and agencies was because they were saying, let us see how this will work. And they were testing and correcting for errors. And they were finding out where the weak spots in the policy were so that they could fix them. It was the Goodluck Jonathan administration was going to continue that policy anyway. And
now,
okay, so if we want to be stress the point, give him the concession. Did it stop the corruption in the government? Absolutely not.
Now, just before we let you go, others have also pointed to the infrastructure project, the renovation and the modernization of the airports around the country. They also mentioned the second Niger Bridge and the completion of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and the rail services. We're seeing the Warri, Itakpe, Lagos-Ibadan and Kaduna-Abuja railway service. Would you give him some credit for that?
I will go back to the car, and I will say two things very quickly because I know that we're about to go. I will go back to my previous statement that a broken clock can be right twice a day. So on some of those things, he was right. And there were very few. If you say, for instance, the airports have been paid for by the previous administration of Goodluck Jonathan. There's receipts that show when former Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala approved the counterpart funding. I think it was $500 million or something. I can't remember the exact fees, but approved the counterpart funding for the construction or renovation of those airports, right? Those things were going to go on without, they're being paid for. He was just lucky to be in office to pay for, to commission them. They're being fully paid for. On a few of those other things, my thought is this: given the amount of money that his government had access to, they borrowed significantly more money than the administration before them. They had spikes in earnings from oil issues, from oil price hikes. Combined, if you take these two things into consideration, loans and earnings, from government activities, government funding, and then you look at the projects around you, do you think that they're commensurate? The answer is no. There was far more funding available to him than the projects that we see on ground. Should I be giving somebody commendation for that? I think not. I absolutely think not. Overall, Muhammadu Buhari left us poorer than he met us. He left us with less access to education than he met us. He left us with less access to healthcare than he met us. He left us with less access, with less unity in this country than he met us. He left us with a battered judiciary that he battered. He left us with, I mean, there is no economic indices that you can say that Muhammadu Buhari left better than he met it. Absolutely none.
We have to end now because
there is nothing that last word. Nothing symbolizes his failure in government more than the fact that after 10 years in government, he couldn't even go to a Nigerian hospital to spend his last days.
Ilemona Onoja,
his failures.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We look forward to having you again. We have to go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation about the life and times of late President, ex-President Muhammadu Buhari. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. The Forum of Lagos PDP local government chairman has rejected the outcome of Saturday's council polls and vowed to challenge the results in court. The chairman said the elections were anything but fair, alleging blatant subversion of the public will, voter suppression, and procedural manipulation. In a statement released by the forum, the PDP local government chairmanship candidates declared results fabricated and undemocratic. They went further to describe the exercise as a state-endorsed hijack of democratic expression, confirming they'll file suit in court this week. Joining us for today's conversation is a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Adetokunbo Pierce. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Was the PDP, did the PDP have high hopes about this local government elections? At the time it was going into these elections, were there high hopes that this was going to be free, fair, and credible?
We didn't have high hopes that LISEC would do the right thing, but we had high hopes that we would do well in the election because we participated in every single LGA and LCDA, all the 57 units. And we had candidates for chairman and candidates for councillor in all of them. And they were very prepared, well-funded, well-trained, and given the fact that the political climate is very unfavorable to APC, the ruling party, we felt that people would vote for us, and indeed people did vote for us, and that is why the suppression and subversion was so intense, because the people came out to vote. The voter turnout was low, but the few people that came out to vote against the APC, and that is why we feel aggrieved that we had actually done very well, and the results that came out do not reflect the real results. If the real results were reflected, we would have won a whole number of chairmanship seats as well as councillors.
So how do we know this? How do we know that the results were not free, fair, and the election was not free, fair, and credible?
Well,
and that many people voted for the PDP as opposed to the APC?
Well, a number of things happened in the sense that we can see reasons why we are complaining. That it was not fair, it was not open, it was very undemocratic. First and foremost, people went to their polling units where they voted for years, and they couldn't find their name, they couldn't vote. Their polling unit had been moved somewhere else and they were not informed. A classic example is a former deputy governor of Lagos State, Honorable Kofo Bokunakrele, who went to her own polling unit. Out of frustration, she said she should cancel the whole election because where she voted for years, she couldn't find her name. So that was one. People went to the polling units, couldn't find their name. We had candidates who were listed, registered with LISEC, candidates, and they themselves were not listed by INEC to be elected. All sorts of things were happening. And then you had the issue of violence, intimidation. I can tell you that the only councillor that we had from a local government in Onoja, around the University of Lagos area, he was so afraid for his life because he was threatened. For weeks, they've been raiding his area, carrying his supporters, taking them to the police station, throwing them in jail, just because they wanted him to step down. They felt that he was going to win because he had just left APC. And he got the ticket in PDP. And they were afraid of him. I called him a day or two before the election. He said he was not around. They're taking him somewhere to hide him because he was afraid for his life. That's how bad it was. Then there is also Iniwaya. This is a practical example. Iniwaya, between 4 and 7 ballot boxes actually were snatched and taken away. by LASEC officials and supported by the police security. So it was a terrible thing, terrible. Then let me tell you something else that happened. In a polling unit where when you have general election and you have huge voter turnout, you have 500 people voting in that polling unit. PDP candidates scored 297 votes in that polling unit. The results that came out now was 550 for APC and 297 for PDP. So the whole number of votes now came like 800 in a place where when there is high voter turnout, no more than 500. That's what was going on. They had to write the result because if they had published what really happened, the PDP guy had won with 297 votes. He had won. Everybody saw it. He saw it, and he was. But when the results came out, it was changed. The same thing happened in Igbogbo, Bayeku, in Ikorodu, where the polling unit, they always had something like 1,000 votes maximum all over that area. This time round, for the APC candidate, they probably 5,000 votes. When you add the PDP votes, which was like 300, and then the APC vote, which was 5,000, I mean, how do you explain that 5,300 because Labour got 0 there? For whatever reason.
So that means nobody in the Labour Party
Even the
voted for
candidate
their own
Nobody.
candidates.
The candidate didn't even vote for himself. 0. Now, if you add the PDP vote and the APC vote, you are looking at about 6,000 votes, 7,000 votes. In an area where they never had more than 1,000 or 2,000 votes. In an election where you have a situation where people didn't even come out to vote. The few people that came out to vote were people who wanted to vote against what is going on in the country now, who wanted to vote against APC. So they were determined that they were not going to let it happen. And so they wrote the results for themselves. That's why we are going to court.
Now, Mr. Pierce, you've highlighted quite a number of fault lines from the just concluded local government elections. You mentioned disenfranchisement. You mentioned also the incapacity of LASEC to conduct free and fair elections. But people watching this now will say, look, this is a countrywide issue. That it's not LASEC alone that suffers from this anomaly. And if you look at the pattern of local government elections across the country, in PDP states, it's always a clean sweep for PDP across all local governments and Labour Party states is the same. That how do we get, because this is from the things you've told us and from what our correspondents observed on Saturday, it's a mockery of democracy. It's almost like an exercise in futility. Why do you even bother conducting elections in the first place is what quite a number of analysts have said. How do we begin to deal with this holistically and nationally and knowing and putting the importance in conducting local government elections in the, because if you look at local governments, they're the closest to the people. It's a they're doing a very important job, and these things have real life ramifications on people's lives. The House of Representatives, as we speak, they're currently looking at a bill to create a different electoral commission to handle local government elections across the country, because this state independent elections commission are only independent in name.
The whole electoral system of Nigeria has to be reformed. I've said it several times, and you are right. The local election commission in every state is totally defective. Because
even in PDP states?
Every state. If you have a PDP state, it's clean sweep. APC state, same thing, Labour. You are right. So what must happen is there must be a reform whereby the state electoral board is made up of the different political parties. Because as it is now, one of the problems we had was that every member of SEC who came to conduct the election is a card-carrying member of APC. So naturally, as you said, it will be the same in a PDP state. So what we must change is, in a local government election, and you know, we've worked and lived in the US for a long time, we know, very simple. By the way, this ballot voting with paper makes no sense in this 21st century. It doesn't make sense. When I went to vote, I saw how it could be easily manipulated. Here is the paper. If I had given them some bribe there, they just gave me 20 papers to go and thumb print. And you thumb print, whereas in the US, all you have to do is, it's like you are using your phone, electronic. You go in and make a phone call. You know, so who you call, you have all the names on your phone. So choose one, call this person. Who do you want to vote for? Boom. You know, so simple.
But are we right for that? You know, we're still dealing with the challenges of
we are using this telephone.
Reverse, exactly.
We are using telephone. We are using internet. We are using all this modern technology. Look, let me tell you, the truth of the matter is, it's a farce. INEC is a joke. LISEC and local government electoral system is all a waste of time. Until the president of the country is not the one that appoints the INEC chairman and the INEC commissioners, we will not have a credible election in the country. And until the local electoral reform is made up of only the party in power in that state, there cannot be fairness, the election cannot be credible.
Who will drive this reform?
We have to change it. Well, look, this is a critical issue for Nigeria. It is the National Assembly that should drive it. But let me tell you, more importantly in this system that we run, this presidential system, whereby the president is so powerful, so influential, we have to work hard and pray to God that we have a president who will make these reforms. This is why, personally, I'm a member of the People's Democratic Party, because we are the party of the 2014 confab asking for reform.
And late President Yaradua also said the process that brought me into office was
exactly,
flawed.
And that is why when Jonathan got there, he set up the 2014 confab. One of the recommendations of the confab is that the whole electoral system has to be reformed. The president, one of the reasons why I worked so hard for Atiku was he said in his own manifesto that if he became president, he would not be the one to choose the INEC chairman and the INEC commissioners until we have that. They used to have the same thing in Ghana. Until they change it, you're not going to have credible elections. So we have to change this in order for us to say our elections make some sense. As it is now, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So the president will just call. Can you imagine what year was it when Trump was running and was looking for votes, calling people all over? If you had one INEC commissioner that he appointed, he would just instruct him to change his results in his favor. And that would be it. And that's what happens in Nigeria. So until we change that, because what we are giving money to Yakubu and co to do is just waste of money. It is scandalous. We are still using ballot paper. So why do you, so they can snatch the box? You know, it's unfortunate that the president himself, or President Tinubu now, his own mantra, his philosophy is grab it, snatch it, run away with it. That's the ballot box. I mean, if you have a system like that, it's not going to change. So one of the things also that the PDP is fighting for is restructuring, and part of it is this system of voting. Until we do that, until we have a president who is interested in this change and can push it in the National Assembly, we're not going to have any difference. And we need this difference for us to even say we're a democracy. Right now, we are not a democracy because of the way that we conduct our elections.
All right. I mean, we've seen what happened in Lagos, and the PDP, like you've rightly mentioned, the local government chairman of the PDP are saying they're not going to equally accept the results. We did have one of the local government chairmen join us here. A candidate, I beg your pardon, and also another one from, I can't recall now, was it the
Youth Party, it's also local government.
No, another one joined us just yesterday.
Ecosi,
yeah.
Yes.
And he said that just before him, he did see where monies were being doled out to people to quickly do the needful, thumbprint the APC, and he tried to do his best to fight. Do you trust Nigeria's judiciary, even if you are going to the courts? Or do you think it's an extended arm, like many have said, of the government, which has been allegedly said? Or do you think maybe the PDP should just call it quits, give up, and and look forward to and push heavily for reforms? Because you might go to the judiciary now and then nothing comes out of it. Then you now go back to the reforms. So which one should be done
I think
first?
we have to do both. We have to do both. We have to keep on pushing the judiciary. We have to keep on pushing the system. Let it be on record that we came with the proper results and the judiciary did not accept it. Let it be on record, and we keep on fighting. But more importantly, what I would advise for the sake of Nigeria and Nigerians is that when we elect our president, we should realize, look at their background, for goodness sake. Look at where they're coming from, what they have done before. What do they want to vote for? What do they want to push? What policies do they want to put in place when they get there? This is what I'm saying. We have in our manifesto in the PDP, the philosophy of the PDP is restructuring, is implementation of some of the recommendations of the 2014 confab. One of them is 1 year, 1 term, 6-year
Presidency.
Rotational presidency. Rotational. If we do not rotate the presidency in this country the way our country is, nobody from the Southeast will ever be president of Nigeria. You know why? The votes are not there. Look at the population. When you go to election, how many delegates are going to come from the Southeast? How many delegates? Very few, because of the number of states, number of local government areas, and so on. The North will always dominate. So whoever, if you become president, it's because the North wants you to be president, so they negotiate you. You're probably working for them. Until we have those changes in our constitution, and it's the PDP that has the philosophy, the commitment to bring about those changes. This is why we don't have anybody in PDP who will say, grab it, snatch it, and run away with it. Criminal way of doing elections. Ganduje said the same thing. He said the Edo template is what they're going to use throughout any election. What's the Edo template? The result comes out of the polling unit. When it gets to the collation center, they change it to favor themselves. Until we have reform, proper reform, and it is only a president who comes in office. So we have hope. Whenever we have elections, like saying, because we lost the last election, we should give up. No, we are going to go again because they rigged election. Now we know that APC is so unpopular. It is very unlikely that they themselves believe that they can win in 2027. But what are they waiting for? Go to INEC, manipulate it, have the result turned to you. Last election, 2023, what happened? 31.5% of votes came in, and Yakubu announced Tinubu as the president. A criminal thing to do. So we are going to make sure that people know the difference between the candidates that are running. Whoever emerges from the PDP will preach the philosophy of restructuring, bring about some of these changes that will improve condition of life for Nigerians and will instill democracy in the country.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir. We'll continue to follow up with the next steps from the PDP regarding the local government elections.
Thanks for your time.
But now moving on to some very sad update. 27 people, including babies, women, and the elderly, have been confirmed dead in an early Thursday morning attack in Bini, Jebu village of Riyom Local Government Area of Plateau State. State officials of the affected council area confirmed the tragic incident. And News Central's Chizoba Anionwe, who was also there for first-hand details, reports that many houses were burnt with inhabitants that couldn't run for their lives. Really sad. Let's take a look.
These are the scenes that welcomed one into the affected village of Jebu in Riyom Local Government Area of Plateau State early Tuesday morning. The village was thrown into shock and mourning when they were attacked with guns and machetes and their houses set ablaze.
Around 3 a.m., this community was attacked by the attackers. And of course, we thought the place was going to be protected as the security men from the Sector 6 came with 2 gun trucks. And I was satisfied that my people are well protected.
Sincerely, it is very sad and unfortunate that up to today, these things have not come to an end. You have just witnessed, you've gone around together here, you've seen the dead bodies yourself. 27 people lying down.
While security personnel from different agencies were seen on the ground, the locals blamed them for late response, alleging complicity.
In fact, there was an early warning information, but we called. We didn't get response. If to say the security responded at the time we called them, this wouldn't have happened.
This is part of the collusion and the complicity of the security agents that have been sent to respond to a distress call, but they couldn't, and it led to this. The present STF commander, the sector commander, that is here in Riyom. Sincerely, we are not comfortable with this man. We must commend the STF operatives that were stationed at SOAP, because if not that they have stood their ground, the actually fatality would have been higher than this.
The dead were said to have been taken away for burial, while their loved ones left to mourn them make their demands known.
In other climes, you have the federal police, you have the state police, and you have county police. Even universities in other climes have their own police system. And until we begin to do this and forget about whatever resources we will spend and protect lives and properties of citizens, we'll be doing nothing.
I am calling on the governor as the chief security of this state. He should do something to Riyom local government. He should do something to these people. People are becoming homeless. People are becoming fatherless. People are becoming motherless.
If these killings continue like this and government did not take any action on it, we will definitely tell the youth what to do. And they should not blame us at the end of the day of what we are telling our members to do. Why? Because we will not continue to die in the hands of people helplessly.
Now with what has happened here today, not only the aged, the youth, babies, toddlers were all affected. They were killed. What they're asking for, I'm sorry doing this, but what they're asking for is that justice be done, that government, security agencies, and every other person or agency responsible to maintain peace and security of what lives and property should sit up and do the needful for the safety of both human lives and their property. In Riyom Local Government Area for New Central, Chizoba, Anionwe.
You can hear the sadness and the pain in Chizoba's voice, and even the citizens. They're not less Nigerian than the rest of us, and it's really a shame and really unfortunate that we continue to discuss this. And even when we have security analysts come into the studio to join us on Breakfast Central, when we are analyzing, particular incidents, they would always say when this happens again. They rarely would say if this happens, because it almost seems like there's a guarantee that this happens. And we'll continue to highlight these stories and call on the government and call on our security agencies to swing into action and do what they're meant to do, which is to protect the lives of Nigerian citizens. We're going to break now, and when we come back, we'll bring in you breakfast headlines. After that, we already have our newspaper guests on standby. Please know that you can be a part of the conversation on YouTube at New Central TV.
Hello, welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aborowa. In the wake of former President Muhammadu Buhari's funeral in Daura, Katsina State, tributes and reflections continue to pour in, including some pointed remarks from a former federal lawmaker. Former House of Representatives member that Chung Bagos has weighed in on the legacy of late President Muhammadu Buhari, criticizing what he called a failure to keep key appointees in check during his time in office. Bagos said some officials within Buhari's administration betrayed the trust placed in them, a failure he believes contributed significantly to deepening corruption during that period. Bagos acknowledged the former president's reputation for personal discipline, but said the widespread insecurity and governance issues under his leadership clouded many of his achievements. In the meantime, Nigerians in South Africa have also expressed their views on the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. While some expressed sympathy at his demise, many others expressed disappointment with his performance as president. They said his administration caused significant economic hardships for the country.
Joins in mourning. The Nigerian community in South Africa joins in mourning the life of its former president Muhammadu Buhari. The news of his passing for Nigerians living in South Africa is stirring mixed emotions, grief, reflecting anger.
So there is nothing to feel about. Do I have to cry for him? Oh, he died. Okay, when he was sick, they talk about sick. Did they tell us who the kind of sickness he was going through? Look at even the present government now. Each time the president goes abroad for treatment, does it mean that we can have one mega hospital in the 6 geopolitical zones that somebody can go? So because you are president, you take our money, you go, you park the jet in London for how many weeks, and then come back and eat, while the poor people you are ruling, the people who are the civilians are suffering.
I don't even feel pity because he's a bad president, but I don't think that he will die, but now he's dead. So all those money he gathered, poor people are suffering. Now where is he going to, what is he going to do with those money? So those things is vanity. Buhari is a good president. He tried his best. We can't say much about him, but he tried his best. He didn't left anything. He left hunger and sufferness.
It was not too good for a statesman because Nigeria didn't enjoy his rule. We are not so much happy about, but it's a shock to us for a headman to die just like that. But at least he's aged. 82 is wonderful.
Remember somebody that put us in suffering. Remember somebody that made us to be where we are. Whereas Nigeria, we're not supposed to be outside the country. If you are a graduate in Nigeria, no job.
In the streets of Heathrow, opinions about his leaderships are mixed. However, the consensus is that he left a mark for Nigeria.
How can you be in your country, you as a president, you don't have, that is a good government hospital whereby president can be there to treat himself. We in South Africa here, Mandela was sick. He was taken to a hospital nearby, showing that things are going well. You can have, as a head of state like that, you don't have hospital where to be treated. That's not good.
Talking about Buhari is just disturbing my mind. He didn't leave any legacy. He's a warmonger.
Across the globe, those who knew him best continue to mourn the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, honoring his memories, sharing stories of his leadership. In South Africa, thoughts are with the people of Nigeria during this time of mourning. In Johannesburg, for News Central, Bongani Chizoba.
The presidency has shed more light on the reason the United States recently reduced visa validity for Nigerian applicants. According to a statement from the Presidential Advisor on Information and Strategy, Riyom Onoja, the United States decision was driven by 2 key concerns: the rising number of Nigerian nationals overstaying their visas and the need for more reliable access to visa applicant records currently held by the Nigerian government. Despite the change, the Nigerian government says it will maintain its current policy of issuing 5-year multiple entry visas to American citizens. Burkina Faso's military authorities have freed 4 critics of the ruling junta who were press-ganged into fighting the Sahel country's long-running jihadist insurgency for months. Since seizing power in a 2022 coup, the Burkina Faso government has used forced conscription to silence or sideline dissenting voices by kidnapping its critics and sending them to the front lines to fight Islamist extremists. Between Thursday and Sunday, 4 people kidnapped after having criticized the military government have been freed. Among them was journalist Khalifara Sere, who had not been heard from since his June 2024 kidnapping at the capital Ouagadougou by masked men in civilian clothing. The head of rights group Amnesty International in Kenya, Irungu Hilton, says the country is facing very tense moments after recent anti-government protesters were killed. Hilton also criticized leading politicians, including President William Ruto, for issuing unlawful commands to officers to shoot, to kill, or maim protesters. Kenya has been grappling with waves of protests from people angry over economic stagnation, police brutality and corruption. The marches at times degenerating into violence and looting.
Essentially, what we have found was that there was a systematic use of live ammunition against unarmed civilians, extrajudicial killings, disappearances, and unlawful arrests. Witnesses report that armed men suspected to be members of the National Police Service or specialized security units arrived in unmarked Subaru SUVs, which had no license plates. The officers gave aggressive commands and indiscriminately fired live ammunition at both protesters and bystanders. The orders to shoot to kill, the orders to shoot to maim by the President, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, and also the National Defense Committee chairperson were all unlawful commands. They are unlawful because the National Police Service is an independent agency. It is governed not by the instructions of the executive or parliament. They are governed by their own National Service Act, Police Act, and they are governed by the Constitution and the laws of Kenya.
So on the news at the moment, I am Benga Aboroa. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Thanks for sticking with us this morning on Breakfast Central. We will now be telling you what the front pages of the papers are saying and giving you an opportunity to call in and react to any of the stories as well. Joining us this morning is Public Affairs Analyst Olusesan Okunade. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Olive. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. I had to do a double check on my calendar to see if today was Friday, because you're making us miss Friday.
Yeah,
giving Friday vibes.
Yeah. I decide to go the cultural way these days. Possibly put this on, look for some Ankaras, and getting tired of some of these.
This should be our corporate way. As Nigerians, this should be our corporate.
Except when I'm on official assignment, possibly that's when I want.
And it's very easy to wear, you know, relaxing. It's not like tying my neck, squeezing my neck like a goat.
I got tired of that, very sincerely speaking. Most of the time when I need to even put on a jacket like this, I want the shirt just free, not with a tie.
Yeah, I mean, we do that on Friday, but aside that, I was even proposing that we go on the African attire on Friday.
I'm sure you know why those things will not come on board is you come to this other opposite sex, when you give that liberty, I'm sure we won't be able to manage.
I mean, she'll be happy to.
She will be very happy, but just watch out.
What are you implying, Mr. Olusesan Okunade?
No, I'm only conserving the savings of Benga in the light that the kind of outfit you be.
And if you wear too much Guinea brocade, you might go broke, you know.
Or I might decide to relocate to Guinea.
Or Guinea-Bissau. I'm not eating Guinea fowl.
Let's go to the papers this morning. On the front page of the first paper this morning, we have our Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper this morning. Final salute. Nigeria bids Buhari emotional farewell. And you can see there Tinubu, Akpabio, service chiefs, Governors pay final respect amid tears tributes. Daura stands still as Katsina Airport records over 130 flights. Oshibajo, ex-governors join African leaders, Saudi King, Prince Mon Buhari. We can see at the bottom of the paper there, Nigeria's oil output soars above OPEC quota.
Some good news there.
Exactly. North Central, when I saw N Central, I wanted to say New Central.
Yeah.
North Central states mobilize joint security to crush bandits. They better crush them, please. Over 420 federal roads completed or in progress, according to the federal government. And at the top of the paper, top right, we see Aujale's burial frees Yoruba kings from ritual slavery.
I mean, it depends on how you interpret it, because some are saying they are custodians of culture, and for them to be buried according to Islamic rites or Christian rites is a desecration of that culture. So the traditionalists are not happy with that. But we'll talk about that.
And maybe we can look into that as well, because there's also the tradition of Abobaku, the person who is designated to die with the king.
Yeah.
I heard, I cannot confirm, that the person who was supposed to be buried, you know, you have jackals because life is sweet.
I mean, culture is very dynamic too. If
in 2025?
Yes, we need to get rid of some harmful traditional practices.
After all, there was a time where if you had twins, they would kill them. And today, look at, we have Peace Square. So we need to get rid of certain cultures and practices.
Very true. And some headline there. Marketers protest as Dangote moves to crash cooking gas price. Why are you protesting? It's a good thing. Nigerians are not protesting.
Let's get Olusegun's view on it, and you can just talk.
Or maybe we can go through all the other papers.
Or let's go through all the papers.
Let's go through all the papers. Then we
choose an a la carte. It's a buffet.
All right, let's go to another paper.
A buffet of newspapers.
Exactly. Let's go to the next paper this morning. On the front page of Nigeria Tribune.
It says, Patriots all-inclusive confab begins in Abuja.
And if you do recall, we did speak to one of the Patriots yesterday, Tolu and I. We had a conversation with Madam Ankyo Briggs, and they said it was meant to start yesterday, but it will start today, and they're discussing
they have to honor
the late president. So they will be discussing on critical issues and present their recommendations to the presidency to move Nigeria forward. Delegates said to discuss future of constitutional democracy, plan to draft people's constitution. They said the 1999 constitution was handed over to us by the military, and that it had zero input from ordinary Nigerians. They say it's faulty. You cannot build on a false foundation. Sea of Heads, as Buhari State funeral in Daura features full military honors. Tinubu, Shetima, Atiku, African leaders, governors, military leaders, ministers, family, others pay last respect. There you can see the pictures there on the front page of the Tribune newspaper. Some terrible news at the top there. Gunmen killed 27, yet again destroy farms, burn several houses in Plateau community. It's almost like we're expecting bad news every week. When will this? You know, the president has given marching order, the president has commanded, the president has done this. What is really going on? And every other, has condemned. This is terrible. This is a Nigerian lives, 27 lives.
Condemned was one of the most used words by the former late president.
Visa overstay, respect immigration regulations to host countries, federal government tells Nigerians. But what they're not also telling Nigerians is that the United States also wanted us to take Venezuelan deportees to host them. We've got problems of our own, you know. So imagine your neighbors being Venezuelan deportees. We're not even taking care of ourselves.
Wahala.
So that would be a big
we've got 99 problems, and Venezuela should not be part of our problems.
Dangote to wealthy Nigerians invest in Nigeria, Dangote says. Will Nigerians agree to that? Anyway,
Olive, Mr. Dangote is talking to you.
What did he say?
So you should invest, Mr.
Well,
you guys should invest in Nigeria.
I've been thinking about it. I really do want to invest in the country.
Are you?
They are wealthy Nigerians.
My dear, I accept it and I receive it with all my heart. I am a wealthy Nigerian in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. And I will invest in my country.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you see it's by prayer.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Okwade is already doing that. Same as myself. I'm already doing that.
You are doing that. You are wearing Western suit.
I'm already doing that. It's not by the suit. It's also by... But let's allow Mr. Kwade react to these stories while we have them on the screen there to look at them intently for your view. Mr. Kwade, let's look at gunmen kill 27, destroy farms, burn several houses in Plateau community. That's a big story.
Yeah, Joe, sincerely speaking...
I'm sure we also have the footage as well to show.
Yeah, I think the other time during the headline news, it was showed to the people. I'm actually waiting for a day or possibly a week that will not have this kind of sad occurrence. And when I was listening to the correspondent from Jos, from Plateau, when she broke into tears to look at how people will just sleep overnight and the next morning you're just destroying houses, attacking them in their house. And I asked myself, are those people not identifiable? And the problem we have been faced with, if you asked me, is continuously there has not been consequences for all these acts that are being perpetrated by those people. And that on its own emboldened them. People that are not in there yet, embolden them to do more, to like nothing will happen. Let me use that street language. Nothing will happen, we'll do it, and we'll have a free way to do whatever we are. In fact, as a matter of fact, a lot of politicians have been indicted, and none have actually been found culpable to say, these are the major sponsors of some of these perpetrators of this act. I listened to one of the governors, stating that those people that perpetrated this act are always indigenous of those states. Are they that difficult to identify? Because it is when you punish those that have perpetrated that act that it can serve as deterrent to others to actually carry out.
They're not ghosts.
The way we are looking at it, it seems they are ghosts. Because you've heard about these 27. Benga, we are not pessimistic or prophet of doom. Come next week, you have another story of this issue happening in another area. But and we have the CSO of some of these states. What are they doing?
The last time Mr. President visited Benue State, he did wonder, he said it out loud, that why hasn't anyone been arrested? And a few days later, the Inspector General of Police came out and said, 20-something, quite a number of people were arrested, and you expect that to set an example, and then
they were arrested. They were arrested. What happened to them? If indeed this is actually happening, we will not see this happening repeatedly. It's becoming, I was laughing when you said myself and Olive should go ahead invest in the country. So if I have resources in Jos, you think I can stand stand the risk of traveling there? I'm sure you will call me and say, Mr. Edson, I like you so much. I don't want a situation where you want to waste your life, because the level of insecurity is a threat to business growth.
People can't even go about their daily
business in that area.
We have citizens living in IDP camps when they should be farming and going about their regular business.
And we want growth to happen. These are problems that we are faced with. An environment that is not secure, you cannot experience any growth in such an area. So you can imagine Jos is a place I visit very often years back. But these days it scares me to even go. You can move from Abuja to Jos, from Jos to Kaduna, all by road. But these days it's not. Look at the horrible saying that we're saying. People having their own sleep, and those things cannot just work out the way it should be. Is this happening? And I can tell you, like you said, Mr. President have given the marching order. We are not seeing anybody marching. Mr. President has condemned this act. Repeatedly, we still having it like every other day. Mr. President have done. What other different thing can we do? We have said it. Can we hold the state governors accountable by giving room for community policing, giving room for state policing, so that it won't be an instruction from the center? This that has happened at that particular state, the governor will not be running to Abuja to be giving Mr. President the report. We will hold him headlong to say, this that has happened. Then he can decentralize the power to say, I am now at the helm of affair for this state, security-wise. The local government should take responsibility. We cannot continue like this and expect growth to happen in our nation. A lot of people have invested, they have intention in investing in some of these states. But because of the security threat, you cannot just go that route. Businesses keep collapsing because even the people that you want to make use of there, if I intend to engage people in that state now, where is the sanity, the security for them to carry out their businesses? This is really disheartening, and I don't know the route that the government intends to go.
We've been doing this for years, and it seems nothing changes. It's really sad. But let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper and see what the headlines are saying. Leaders, friends, politicians unite in stately farewell for Buhari as the late president was laid to rest yesterday. Saudi Arabian Moroccan king born Buhari pays service to Nigeria. Dangote falls capital flight insists on investing in Nigeria. And talking about Dangote's refinery, Dangote's investments in Nigeria, it was in the news recently that the Dangote group just secured, or are in the process, they've done the paperwork for Deep Sea Port in Ogun State. So that's, it's not just talking the talk, it's also walking it and putting his money where his mouth is. Very emotional pictures there of the Buhari funeral. You could see Mr. President hugging Yusuf Buhari, and then that's the last picture. The bottom right is the Zamfara governor. He was really moved by the emotions, and he was in tears there. Lawyers bicker as EBAS inaugurates boards and commissions. The lawyers are saying you are just here for temporary, for a short while. You're the administrator, and you are making all those moves. What gives you the constitutional right to appoint RCEC chairman, inaugurate boards and commissions, especially after we've seen that peace has been brokered? We've seen Martin Zamewule smiling with the suspended governor and the minister of the FCT, and then he's getting very comfortable in his position. But if you want details of that, get a copy of the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria meets OPEC quota. First time in 5 months, falls short of 2025 benchmark. TikTok restricts 21 million offensive videos, removes 3.6 million from Nigeria. Wow, that's a
I need to know what constitutes offensive videos.
On TikTok.
I should look online and double check.
And Senate declines Natasha's recall, insists no binding order. So is the court's
one. So is the court exactly where's the role of separation of powers?
And where is the CTC?
Right? If the court gives a judgment or a ruling, and then the legislature, if the court, that is the judiciary, gives a ruling, and the legislature comes to say, you know what, this ruling, we cannot implement it. What does that say about the kind of democracy we're running?
You know, the democracy we are running is interesting, where separation of power is not respected. You're talking about judiciary and the legislator, about even the executive and the legislator themselves. They have no respect for one another. And one thing, you know, that I can link to this, where you were rolling the Guardian newspaper and pointing at Zamfara governor, you know, it's like, hardly will you see some of these leaders had this deep thought. All those things are just for that period that those things are happening. Because if indeed they have that, their attitude towards the citizen will go much more better than what we are currently experiencing. Because we've said it times with that number, what's the fate of those that actually voted Natasha to represent them in Senate?
The constituency.
You know, the constituency. What fate are you actually giving to them? They don't have a representation, as we speak, in that particular Senate. So what will be their fate? What are you doing? What will she give as a give back? So you've said that even the voting of the people in that particular area is null and void. They are not well represented at the center. A lot is actually going wrong with our democracy, which calls for serious attention, if you ask me. Because when you wake up every day, the level of insecurity, the level at which individuals even take decisions, not minding the impact on the citizen they claim they are living, all because of their personal gain, is what gives so much. Every day by day, people, you read the other news where we were talking about government. Who on earth Does the government think that people that are outside there in other countries, look at the highlights of what we listen to from South Africa. These guys are saying that nobody is happy staying outside this country. We want to stay within. But how can you stay in a country that your security is not guaranteed? You sleep and you cannot guarantee that you wake up on your own tomorrow without not being attacked. These are areas that government, and I've said it that all the reforms that we are actually talking about, I may not see a lot coming on board if the security issue is not addressed.
All right. Let's take Chudi calling from Lagos. Hello, Chudi. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Hello, Chudi. Are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
We need to hear you. Can you speak up a little more?
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, Chudi, calling from Lagos.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like...
Yes, I'm
I wanted to talk to Olive about this because we've seen precedents. It's not the first time.
Okay. All right. Yes, we can hear you. Maybe we might just need to take the volume up from the studio here. Yes, go ahead. Chudi, go ahead. We can hear you.
I think there's a network issue there.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. I was listening to your guest in the studio, and he was talking about the insecurity, what happened. You see, this country cannot go down very well unless we tell ourselves the truth. Why is it that this thing is happening in a particular zone, in a particular side of the country? Why is it not happening in the southwest or south or southeast? It is always in the north. You see, our leaders know what they are doing until we tell ourselves the truth. And that's the reality of the whole thing. Then, on the issue of the late president who died, yes, we come with the family. Death is inevitable. Everybody must die. But people should try to leave a legacy. No president of America has ever died outside America or somewhere else. Our leaders, they will not put the hospitals in the order. They will not do anything. Even the three physical things they can't give us. There is no good health center. There is no power. There is no water. There is no food. There is no good road. Just education. Everything is down. But they are busy stealing Nigerian money. And when they die, people will come on television to defend them. He was good. He doesn't know. He was a good man. How dare you give somebody a job? You don't mention him or her. Who does that? Even a child in the kindergarten knows that when you give a job, I follow you, I ask you questions. But they're telling us that he's this and that. We know all those things. And why would they resign? If you are a president or a governor and you can no longer, the center can no longer hold, you can't do anything again. Why can't you resign and give space? Is it a crime of a president for a governor to resign? If it is a crime, they will be there messing it up more and more. Only God will make this nation move very fast. As I'm saying it, I don't think that this nation called Nigeria will work. Let us tell you, I don't think it will work. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Uday, for calling. I think he said so many things, but the death of ex-President Muhammadu Buhari has really excavated a conversation about leaders who are leaving the country to go abroad for healthcare. Because you remember that during the time of his, during his time in office, he was characterized with frequent medical trips. And we've seen a repetition of that now with the current administration, even though a number of times they tell us it's not about a medical visit, it's a foreign trip, a working leave to France, working leave, and Nigerians have asked, what's the meaning of a working leave? So it feels like that has become the norm.
Olive, let's tell ourselves the truth. This will not stop. We are only picking hands on the president, even the governors. Most of the time, this will not come to the media. They have private jets. They don't need to go on commercial stuff to fly. So they leave in the morning, come the next day. You don't know anything happened. It's like the president, the governor, or even some of these top politicians have just visited the next state just for something, and they are just there for checkup. If they are there for 2-3 days, they have activities they have lined up that will keep everybody engaging, not even knowing that they are not around. And we've said this. You see, while we were growing up, we grew up with these primary health centers that is even closer to the grassroots. We grew up with having good general hospital, you know, where you'll be confident to say you will go there these days. And I ask myself, the foreign trips that they are actually embarking upon, a lot of people will tell you that it is still the same Nigerians, medical doctor, they are cautioning not to travel, that they are going there to treat them because they have better infrastructure to make those things work. It is not that they are actually using foreigners. It is the infrastructure that is actually provided by the government of those areas that our own citizens are using their intellectual. You know, there is something for you to have good infrastructure. There's another thing to have the intellectual to plug into it. We have the capacity. The human capacity is there in our country. What we are lacking is build the infrastructure and see whether those people will not fit in. You know, I'll put this as a side attraction. I was listening to your earlier guest when you are actually engaging him to say, sir, this issue of, you know, he said, if you go to the U.S. and you put a call who you want to vote. And I asked myself, have you experienced failure with your internet infrastructure, where you're trying to even browse?
Beyond the internet, just the last election, is it not the same uploading of results that we had issues with beavers?
So the infrastructure is not there, and that is an area that we need to address. If government is intentional of giving us this infrastructure, power, and you see, we'll continue to have grid collapse, because most of the time, you see some of these guys that are creating this insecurity, attacking some of this infrastructure. And that's why we say address the issue of insecurity. That is when we can enjoy those infrastructure. Look at the president that just died. People give credit that he did the second Niger bridge. But not too long, we heard about some of those things that's actually been dismantled, people moving certain things out of it. And we ask ourselves, this was what was given to this president as a credit. Not too long, we started asking about the decay of some of those infrastructure that were actually put in place without anybody checking on it. These are the gaps that we are faced with as a nation. Fix security, build those infrastructure, and I can tell you who want to overstay in US that we're actually talking about. If this place is actually an home for you to be, a lot of people want to come home. The fundamental that they are scared of is security. People come in and they have to pay so much to get oddly, to get escort, to go to wherever they are going. Those things don't come cheap. We are those periods that I say boldly, years back, I feel so comfortable to travel at night.
Of course, in the year 2000, I traveled from Lagos to Kano by road.
By road, and it's always at night. Even before I started driving to some of those areas, I want to go with some of these public transport at night. You feel so cool.
The road is smooth,
and you sleep all through, and you are waking up in the next day. You even don't want to try that by day, not to talk of at night again. When do we get back to and it's about security. You see, you talked about developing tax, developing power, developing. If you don't address this security issue, we go nowhere, because the next thing we'll be hearing is that so much infrastructure have been built, and the next thing they've attacked it and they brought it down.
Very sad development. But let's take a look at our final newspaper, the Daily Independent newspaper. The Daily Independent newspaper says they have a different headline. I was expecting. Cashew expansion drive. Investors eye 7.2 trillion naira inflow into the economy. Cashew is the new gold. So I'm going to look into tapping into this ecosystem after the program. I'm going to do my research.
You need to invest.
I need to invest, exactly. Sets to reposition Nigeria's world largest producer, target production capacity of 2 million metric tons by 2030. And ahead, at the top of the headline there, end of an era of a man with many perspectives, Buhari, and why US-UAE slammed visa restrictions on Nigerians by the federal government. 17 years after spending 60 billion naira, digital switch over project still in limbo. Akwa Ibom seals $3.5 billion gas deal with NNPC and GACN. Great news there. And Dangote urges wealthy Nigerians to invest in the country. Tinubu bows before Buhari's remains as he laid to rest. And Ondo government firm to sign MOU on establishment of oil refinery. That's on page 7 of the Daily Independent newspaper there. So I guess, this is, we've had a lot of repetitions from, I guess, the biggest stories, the funeral of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. But looking at wealthy Nigerians, okay, you also talked on this issue that the biggest burden is security, but how is a Dangote able to do it?
If you ask Dangote, which he will tell you point blank, the operating cost of some of these activities don't come cheap. You might have the favor or the side of the government, as we speak, looked at the consistency on the path of government policy. I think we've had it a bit stable, but we'll still say, you look at that area, I hope it's not just a sensational headlines on the cashew expansion drive, because I asked myself, is cashew an IT inclined business, or is still the same planting that the farmers cannot even have access to the farm that we're talking about? If it is about agricultural produce, where we keep having attacks and a lot of people that are supposed to do the farming are in IDPs, I ask myself how the growth would definitely, you see, there are certain things that you can put on paper when you write feasibility report of the potential a particular thing can actually offer to you.
And its value chain.
You know, and when it comes to the implementation of some of those things, it becomes a bit difficult to actually carry out. Which speaks to that, I will continue to reiterate that we need to have a secured environment. A lot of our vast land are actually there, but people are just scared to invest because there is no guarantee. We also have a lot of
unemployed youth who can be channeled into
of course, when those investors are out there and they have the confidence that their investment is secured, definitely there will be increase in the area of employment. You want to employ people to actually do the work. But situation where we've seen instances, even in our southwest, people will actually come back to the country to invest in agricultural produce, and all of a sudden you have an attack, even from the people they have engaged their services to work for them on the farm, and the next thing you hear is that they've gone, and people will just see the next available flight, the family are out of the country. It still speaks to the level of insecurity, and this we must take with all seriousness if we must grow our economy as a nation.
Apart from insecurity, I was speaking to an expert yesterday, and to someone who was part of the Mayor of London's delegation to Nigeria for a business trip, and they said he had to pay £500 for his visa. I mean, if you are encouraging people to invest in Nigeria, you don't set those kind of barriers. You have to make the ease of business. You have to make it easy for people to do business, remove all those bureaucratic bottlenecks. I heard that applying for a Nigerian visa is so cumbersome, the things they ask you for, the forms, you have to go back, you have to dedicate a whole day into doing it. When in other countries, you could just go online, fill e-visa forms.
Which other countries are we talking about?
E-visa forms.
You see, what the guy is saying is shocking to me.
If you're going to Uganda and
so we're talking about African countries, right?
Kenya, for example. Yes.
Except we're talking about some of the African countries.
Yes.
Because if we're looking at
even for expats, it's easier for them to even move around Africa because it's visa on arrival for most of them. For citizens of America, Canada, and most European countries, they just show up at the airport, it's visa on arrival, pay a small fee and get in. But Nigeria, you need a proper visa. We tried to do the visa and arrival thing, but it didn't work. But I heard the Minister of Foreign Affairs is trying to perfect the e-visa system where you can fill in your details online and then get an e-visa.
Shout out to
you travel.
Binga.
So we need to also look at things like that, those little things that make life harder for investors. And
yeah, I'm just wondering, Benga, when you said there are challenges with the ease of doing business, I know that was one of the mantra of the last administration, with the current one are actually building on to tell you that all the bureaucratic setting, and it's part of the things we tell individual. Paper report is quite different from practicality. It's the people that gives you the feedback to let you know whether some of those things you claim are actually working. I'll give kudos to the Minister of Interior. It's not against say a lot of people, confirm, testify to the ease of having their passports being done and what they have actually trickled out. And I will say this, that the best way to know whether somebody is performing is when civil servants don't like you. That means you are eating hard on them in some of the things that they are doing. And I think that's what is actually happening in that particular area.
So people must testify. There will be continuity.
It's part of the things we learn. It's part of the things we learn. And that's why people like us, we continue to challenge the civil service. Tunji Ojo will leave, possibly after this administration. And that's why you have an urge, which you have a permanent secretary or whosoever DG who is leading that particular agency or person to carry on after that. What becomes of some of those things that this man, we should not build a system around an individual. It should be a system that will work whether you are there or you are not there.
Okay, let's hear from Raymond as we wrap up the show this morning. Raymond calling from Lagos. Good morning, Raymond. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead quickly with your comment.
Good morning, Nigeria. The issue we have in this country, if you have an angel to rule Nigeria with the system of government, not work. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. If Tinubu leaves tomorrow and you bring another person as these 80 people are planning, the problem remains. Until we work on our system. Imagine in Ojo local government in Lagos, if you have an Aliyu as a police DPO from Borno, how will you manage it? So look at what your guest just saying about Tunji Ojo. If you have a Ojo in the southwest doing it, you have another one in the northwest doing it. With the general number of until this country is decentralized, no individual man can put Nigeria with the system. Secondly, the people in government, that is local politicians, some of them are benefiting from this crime. And no individual who will need their vote in the next election to president or who want to attack them. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Just points to what you were saying, that it's not about the individuals, but that the
have a
system
system.
needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Even if you remove one person and you bring another person, if there's a flawed system, the system will continue to thrive. And it's why we hear a number of times
systems and institutions.
Exactly.
Yeah, than individuals.
But who makes the systems and the institutions?
It's the individuals. Yeah.
It's a which one comes first?
And that's why that's why we always say that the civil servants play a critical role, because they are there. The other appointees, either minister, DG, they are there on appointment with a specific tenure. So when they leave, if there are good things that they have actually built, and that's why it's difficult for people to invest, because of the inconsistency. So you see somebody that is there putting those right track, and that's why I told my friend, who is the chairman of the tax reform, to say you've had a very wonderful package. What becomes of it when you are no longer there?
That's it.
And some people already see the loophole, and they will capitalize and pull us back
to where we
10 years behind where we started from.
Right.
And that is the problem we are faced with as a nation. We should not build things around individual,
but
teach people, some of those things, and build a culture. Have a value proposition that speaks to the. That's what works with some of those developed climes that we are all actually going. Not about a single individual that build those things.
Sometimes I also beg to mention that some of these developments are made to be so strong that even if there's a shift in terms of power, in terms of another administration, they cannot help but continue that with it. They must
even if it is different party that is coming in.
It's like it's put on that law that you must.
Yeah, you look President Trump, for example, is trying to turn things on their head.
Which is
also
hard.
strong institutions.
Yeah, he's finding it difficult to carry some of those things.
All right, we have to
Thank
go,
you so much.
gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to start the Wednesday.
Great analysis. Thank you so much for watching. To our viewers who have joined us, it's been a fantastic edition. Tomorrow is going to be quite different. We might be touching on the Natasha Poti conversation, where the Senate President has equally filed another suit, telling the court rather that it doesn't have the power to bring her back.
You sue me, I sue you.
God no
you
good.
impeach me, I inchip you.
So, and this is anyway. Thank you for watching. I'm Joe Hansen.
I am Olive MOD.
And I'm Benga Daura. Thanks for joining us. See you again tomorrow. Have a nice day.